Stone Cold Steve Austin is arguably one of the most popular WWE superstars of all time. I mean, who doesn't love a guy who can make their boss's life miserable for years? As we celebrate the birthday and legacy of the Texas Rattlesnake, I'm Kevin, and here are the 5 most memorable Stone Cold Steve Austin moments in WWE history. Number 5, Death by Sharpshooter. Widely regarded as one of the greatest matches in WWE history, Stone Cold vs. Bret Hart was an easy show stealer at WrestleMania 13 in the greatest wrestling city in the world, Chicago. The blood-soaked battle provided a new chapter for both men, with Hart embracing his new heel villainous persona, while Austin finally became the babyface badass that WWE fans wanted him to be. Brawling all over the Rosemont Horizon Arena, the two put each other through hell with a sadistic quest to make the other man quit. A masterclass in storytelling, this match depicted Austin gradually revealing the true extent of his endurance and courage. Their support on the morally scrupulous character like Austin simply bolstered Hart's determination to knock Stone Cold down. By the end, Austin was a bleeding mess, agonizing, refusing to give in to the hitman's sharpshooter, passing out in a pool of his own blood. Austin woke up standing to an ovation from the audience. Amazed by the quality of the bout, WWE quickly began Austin's push to take over the promotion as its lead babyface. Number 4, the beginning of the Austin era. WrestleMania 14 ended on a magnificent note. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeating an on-screen and off-screen villain in the eyes of some, Shawn Michaels, to take the WWE Championship with a Stone Cold Stunner. Iron Mike Tyson, a very controversial figure in sports and boxing at that time, was involved in the finish with a suspiciously fast count as the special ringside enforcer. Standing tall with the belt raised over his head, Austin drank beer in the adoration of fans as Jim Ross famously bellowed, "The Austin era has begun!" He was officially the new lead star of WWE at the height of its popularity at that time. Austin was still recovering from a devastating neck injury the year prior, and Michaels had wrecked his back earlier that year at the Royal Rumble. Neither man was healthy in their slightest, and both expressed consistently negative opinions about the match. While the match isn't considered the best by either performer, it remains the final step in Austin's massively successful push to the main event scene. The match had a brilliant build-up and drew a huge buy rate at the time. Number 3, the Beer Bash. The last Raw before WrestleMania 15 took place in Albany, New York's Pepsi Arena, and it turned out to host one of Attitude Era's most famous segments. The Rock was in the ring, portraying the heel corporate WWE champion version of his persona, flanked by Vince McMahon and Shane O'Mac. The Rock was interrupted by the entrance of his challenger at WrestleMania. Oh, who could it be? Stone Cold arrived in a Coors Light truck to an enormous pop from the crowd. What? The Rattlesnake climbed atop the roof of his latest giant vehicle. What? And traded words with The Rock for a spell. What? From there, Austin got down, picked up his beer hose, and drenched the three with an endless outpouring of beer. The sheer ridiculousness of the segment was enhanced further by the visual of McMahon attempting to swim in the beer that he had been sprayed in. A wild and chaotic moment at the time, the beer bath remains a favorite for fans, even 21 years later. Literally, that moment is now legal to drink. Austin would go on to win his 3rd WWE Championship just 6 days later, and fans were universally behind it. Number 2, selling his soul for the WWE Championship. The long-running feud between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon kind of defined WWE's Attitude Era. Austin's gutsy rebellions against his hot-headed boss mirrored the daydreams of many of us. We would all, at some point, want to kick our boss's ass. After years of butting heads, the notion of Austin making peace and siding up with his nemesis was unthinkable. Headlining WrestleMania X7 in his home state of Texas, Steve Austin did the unthinkable, aligning himself with Mr. McMahon to ensure a title victory over The Rock. Austin displayed a more villainous side of his offense throughout the match, ultimately beating down The Rock unconscious with a steel chair, as per the orders of McMahon. Eventually, Austin and McMahon shook hands, and the heel turn marked the end of the Attitude Era in the eyes of some people. Jim Ross's reaction to the turn signified what everyone felt watching the event. Tell me this is not happening. Tell me this is not happening. Tell me this is not happening. Number 1. Austin 316. After a gruesome battle against Mark Miro earlier in the night in the King of the Ring tournament, Steve Austin went to the finals to decimate Jake Roberts and become the King of the Ring. Except Austin didn't care about the crown at all. At the time, WWE promos weren't as scripted as they are today. Austin reportedly had been told to simply talk some trash on the mic following his victory. Roberts was portraying a born-again Christian at the time, so Austin took the famous John 3:16 Bible passage that Roberts referenced earlier and went on to deliver the iconic Austin 3:16 promo. If you don't remember it, here's a quote from the post-match speech by the then new King of the Ring.
You sit there and you thump your Bible and you say your prayers and it didn't get you anywhere. Talk about your Psalms, talk about your John 3:16. Austin 3:16 says I just whipped your ass.
Austin's promo captured the imagination of fans, with signs and t-shirts becoming the norm at WWE events for years to come, something which is still a hot-selling product to this day.